Second quote, we have the complete antithesis to Scrooge. So Scrooge, because of how he grew up, which we'll talk about in another quotation later, with a feeble fire, a paucity of love and warmth, has grown up to be a dark master, hasn't he? Yeah? He's a dark master who spreads darkness wherever he goes. So Scrooge spreads darkness. And by proxy, if he spreads darkness, well, metaphorically that represents how he spreads malevolence. Yeah? So he spreads darkness and by proxy malevolence. Yeah? He is consumed by darkness and therefore consumed by misanthropy and callousness. In comparison, in contrast, Fred is the antithesis to his uncle, where Scrooge represents those Malthusian ideas in society. And when we say Malthusian, we mean those ideas in society that saw the poor as surplus. That's how Scrooge sees the poor, doesn't he? He says, decrease the surplus population. He says, are there no prisons? So in comparison to this Malthusian character, who is representative of Malthusian Victorian society, we have this other character who is the opposite, the antithesis, is what that means, of Scrooge. Now, if he is the opposite of Scrooge, he's the opposite of Victorian society at the time. Fred is the character in the play that represents Dickens's view. Yeah? So Fred is like Dickens's character. Yeah, he wants the reader to be more like Fred, to be more charitable, generous, etc., and to not be the Scrooge in society. It's really interesting how Fred is introduced. He's introduced via light. This light imagery of his eyes sparkled and he's all in a glow immediately introduced him as someone bright and hopeful. He's literally the antithesis of dark because he is bright. Yeah? Not only is he bright, but if he's in a glow and he's sparkled, he spreads that brightness. Where Scrooge spreads darkness and therefore malevolence, Fred spreads brightness. Therefore, by proxy, benevolence, kindness, and love. Now, what Dickens is trying to say here is how we behave is important. How Scrooge behaves as a dark master, it means he spreads darkness and malevolence into society. That's how society becomes this Malthusian, avaricious and selfish society that Dickens sees and experienced himself as a child. Whereas Fred, he spreads brightness. He says Merry Christmas even though Scrooge says Bah humbug. Yeah? He invites Scrooge to the Christmas party every single year even though Scrooge turns him down, because he spreads benevolence to all. Even Scrooge. And what that tells us is benevolence is powerful, and when spread can have a big impact on people. It sparkles and glows. Yeah? He can spread this hope to everyone. And what that tells us is that characters like Fred and people like Fred can have a positive impact in society. Yeah? So Dickens wants to promote Fred's behaviour and to denounce Scrooge's behaviour in order to promote Dickens' idea that society needs benevolence, philanthropy, love. Yeah? So Dickens is trying to promote the idea that society needs benevolence, philanthropy and kindness and love, whereas Dickens is trying to denounce Malthusian ideas. Malthusian people who see the poor as surplus, who spread darkness and malevolence into society, creating a doomed, dark, dogmatically avaricious society. Okay, that is quote number 2.